We will now proceed with the next session, and this is SolarShare, peer-to-peer trading of renewal energy, and insight sharing by Senoko Energy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is with pleasure that I invite Mr. James Chong, Senior Vice President, Commercial, Senoko Energy, and of course our moderator, Mr. Anuraj Chatterjee, Head of Sales for Renewables and Power Asia Pacific Energy Systems, DNV. He will be moderating this session. Now, Anuraj, I'd like to mention, is going to be here on stage a lot longer than now because he'll be actually moderating the next two sessions as well. So he's going to be working very hard. Let's welcome them both with a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. A very good morning to all our distinguished guests, both from locally and internationally. I'm James from Senoko, right, and it is my pleasure to be here today, this morning, to share with everyone Senoko's little own peer-to-peer pilot testing that we have been conducting in the last 1 year. We had an interesting and fruitful time conducting this pilot, all right, and we are delighted to share some of our learnings in this forum with you. Before I start with today's sharing, I would like to give a quick introduction about Senoko Energy for the wider audience, especially our international guests who may not be familiar with our business. Established in 1976 as part of Public Utilities Board, we have been in operation since 1976. As Singapore's oldest power plant, Senoko has played an instrumental role in powering Singapore through her developing years. Senoko Power Station hosts a licensed capacity of 3,300 megawatt and supplies roughly about 20% of the nation's electricity needs. Through the years, we have also evolved to offer a more balanced portfolio of natural gas supply, tank leasing, terminal services, and electricity supply. I currently manage the retail portfolio, which is housed under Senoko Energy Supply Private Limited. In general, our team aims to assist both corporate and residential customers in better managing their electricity costs and to offer differentiated services to our clients. With customers' ever-changing needs, it was about energy efficiency previously, and now that has pivoted and trend towards renewable energy. Our retail team has set up a business development team that focuses on making sense of the upcoming trends in the energy sector. Called the New Energy Solutions team, their core responsibility is to understand the challenges faced by our customers and to propose appropriate solutions to them. It is the same team that is the brain behind this SolarShare initiative that I'm sharing this morning. So, the key idea behind SolarShare is really simple. It's simply to create a platform where buyers and sellers of solar energy can come together to trade. And for the purpose of this pilot, we were also fortunate enough to have found two like-minded partners to join us in this tripartite partnership. NG Factory is actually the venture capital arm of NG, in which their key focus is to look out for new startups with viable solutions that is faced by the energy sector. They saw that SolarShare could eliminate the needs for long-term PPA that is customary associated to any solar project and thus their interest in this project pilot. For Senoko, we are interested in this project as we saw growing interest in solar energy. In addition, the present solar energy market was largely catered for the corporate clients, and we believe the general public and individuals could play a more critical role in accelerating the adoption of solar energy in Singapore. Of course, we also have a customer base that has been requesting for a solar product in the last few years. Last but not least, we have Electrify, who has the idea and a product to match. What they needed was really a base to test their concept. As a new startup, they were also nimble and adaptable. This is critical for us during the pilot, as when we are actually introducing something this new to the market. Most importantly, all three partners shared some important common belief, and that is in the building of a community fully backed by truly sustainable energy, building connections within the community and putting a face to your solar energy provider, and fostering a community of like-minded individuals. With the above, we hope to accelerate both supply and demand of solar energy in Singapore in the long run. So, how can a P2P trading platform help to increase both demand and supply of solar energy? To answer that, let's look at the various commercial models surrounding solar energy trade today. One of the most common commercial model would be that of a solar or a virtual PPA. In such a model, each project must be assessed for its financial viability. The objective of the rule-based owner, the investor, and the off-taker has to be aligned for each project to be approved. And given such projects are always long-term in nature, it inevitably slows the growth of solar projects under these models. Next, for renewable energy certificates or REC, it is a relatively convenient tool for any organization to tap on to meet their sustainability reporting goals. However, there are two key downsides of RECs. Unlike a standard PPA, there is no potential upside for the purchase of REC. Under a PPA arrangement, the buyer will enjoy the consistency of a lock-in price in times where electricity cost is high. For example, the current high gas price situation that we are facing today. But in the case of REC, it will be always an add-on cost to the price of your brown energy purchase. Secondly, REC has the limitation in terms of the time frame of matching the demand and supply. We have also observed more companies are actively looking at more sophisticated green energy matching solutions. For example, Google has introduced the concept of time-based energy attribute certificates, a new hourly approach for verifying clean energy matching at Google data centers. At the same time, Google collaborates with others in the industry to modernize the standards and policies that underpin clean energy certification systems worldwide. In fact, more global MNCs are starting to prioritize contracts that supports new energy build on the grids where their business operate. So, with a P2P trading platform like SolarShare, we hope to eliminate the key concerns mentioned earlier on, such as, number one, to eliminate the long-term commitment associated with solar PPAs. Secondly, near real-time matching of solar generation and consumption. Lastly, supports a faster energy build within the community. In the ideal world, where there is critical mass subscribing to a platform like SolarShare, you can imagine that for consumers, they will have access to a wide selection of solar generation assets, price transparency through comparison, and minimizing the cost of purchase by eliminating the middleman. By putting the face of the prosumers on the platform, it enables the congregation of communities and provides support for each other to achieve further growth. For the prosumers, they can use the platform to gauge the selling price for the solar electrons in the community, plus access to a ready customer base. By having revenue certainty, at least for revenue projection certainty, this will provide them the confidence in commencing the solar installation project without the need of a long-term PPA. Now I'll briefly describe how the peer-to-peer trading platform works, right? So the matching process actually starts with the prosumers listing their solar project on our platform. They will state their generation volume and desired sell price. Consumer will then choose from the list of prosumers available and decide who they would like to buy from. By selecting a prosumer, they would have also indicated the price they are willing to pay for the solar energy. The matching engine will then allocate the sale of solar energy generated by the prosumers to the consumers at the contracted rates at half-hourly intervals. The engine does so by processing half-hourly generation and consumption data of both its prosumers and consumers according to a predefined set of algorithms. An allocation event will only occur if the buy price set by the consumer is higher or equal to the sale price set by the prosumers. Any unallocated energy generated will consequently be settled at the prevailing pool price or the wholesale price, while any consumption that is not allocated to solar generation will be provided by the energy retailer at the contracted rate, in this case, Senoko. Customers has access to a dashboard to show them how much was their solar energy allocation for the month. The interesting part about SolarShare is our two-tier matching algorithm. If you refer to the bar chart in front of you, you will see that each bar represents the consumption by the consumer in that half an hour. The blue portion shows the consumption supplied by Tier 1 prosumers. The green portion is supplied by a Tier 2 prosumers, while the orange portion is the energy that is supplied by Senoko during the non-sun hours. If you recall earlier on, I mentioned that consumer gets to choose their preferred prosumers, and this is what we call Tier 1 matching, as shown in the blue portion of the bar. However, do bear in mind that solar generation can be volatile. There could be times your Tier 1 producer is not generating, but there are others in the system who are. As such, the system is smart enough to match excess generation in the system to the consumers who needed them. The aim of this whole matching exercise is to maximize the solar allocation to each consumer based on the price that they are willing to pay for the solar electrons. Whatever could not be matched at the end of the day is then supplied by Senoko as the balancing generator. When we started this pilot, we have two key objectives. First is to really test the technical viability of deploying such a product over a main grid. Secondly, is to test the commercial interest of such a product in the market, such as Singapore. During our launch, we are very humbled by the attention and interest in our pilot program. The mainstream media picked up our press release, and the interests were further amplified by social sharing. We saw high traffic of viewers to our microsite. This actually becomes our first learning for this pilot. The enhanced interest actually indicated that there is keen interest from the market surrounding solar energy and an interest for such a trading platform. With the strong interest, we have also expanded the pilot participation number from the initial 50 customers to a total of 101 consumers at the end. So what are our other key learnings at the end of this pilot? First and foremost will be the contractual issues that we face during the structure of this pilot. The electricity market in Singapore has been fully liberalized for the last 3 years. And being a highly regulated market, there are business rules on which how electricity contracts needs to be structured, especially in the case of residential customers. Senoko must think of how to offer the product without breaching the market rules. Being the first P2P trading platform on the national grid, we treaded carefully and worked closely with the regulators on our approach. By offering SolarShare as an added option, which allows a selected group of customers to buy green, it allows for Senoko to build both brown and green energy in our SolarShare pilot participants. Second major issues that we have faced, challenges we have faced, is in that of a metering. All consumers on SolarShare have to be on AMI smart meters for real-time half-hour matching. Most households in Singapore are still built on a predefined load profile. This was easy to resolve, as Senoko can easily bundle in the cost of smart meter into the project. However, even after we have done so, the meter data are provided to retailers 6 business days later, which results in delay in the visualization of our SolarShare dashboard that I've shown earlier on. To mitigate this, we deploy Ampotech meters on top of the regulated meters as an additional layer for the purpose of visualization. At the same time, this would also help us to evaluate if our meter choice can be deployed overseas in time to come. On the generation side, we have also learned that household prosumers in Singapore are under the Singapore generation load profiling. And this means that there is a certain assigned solar radiance which is pre-assigned for their exports. This arrangement works very well in Singapore as most of the households have limited exports in a month. However, this went against our pilot considerations as SolarShare is all about real-time energy matching and trading. We now have to learn how to switch a household prosumers to a real-time export meter. And thanks to one of our enthusiastic consumer, Mr. Robin Fo, founder and CEO of the Right People Renewable Energy, who journeyed with us through these home solar assets. We went through the whole process and learned that there is a high cost and logistic challenges, right, to install a meter box, right, which has a specific specification to adhere to. While we recognize that it is not commercially viable to switch for all household users, we can now recognize that the final product that we embark on have to be tweaked slightly to allow for household prosumers to participate in SolarShare meaningfully. Last but not least, the mismatch of supply and demand within a pilot environment. As a pilot, we are very careful not to oversell the program and was concerned that we might not have enough green energy supply. We kept the program to 100 consumers so as to limit the demand side of things. We were lucky to have found like-minded prosumers like Lam Hong Singapore Private Limited and SolarTech Private Limited. As a result, the consumers on the program were allocated up to 43% of green energy during the pilot. The results are very encouraging, of course, and the consumers are happy. Due to our cap in the participation rate, we could not onboard more users, and the prosumers actually had much more to offer in terms of the green electrons. Despite the mismatch, our prosumers understand the disparity is due to a pilot setting and have been very supportive in the last 1 year. This is, of course, a good problem for us and gives us great confidence knowing that this pilot can be further scaled to include more consumers. When we look back at the objective we have set for this pilot, it is clear to us that SolarShare could be both technically and commercially viable within Singapore. However, the biggest takeaway for us is that SolarShare is about building green communities in Singapore. Since the start of SolarShare, we have been connected with many individuals and companies who believe in taking incremental steps to move Singapore into a greener tomorrow. We realize this product is no longer just a product. This is Senoko's taking baby steps to join forces with like-minded others to bring Singapore closer to a sustainable tomorrow. As the pilot comes to an end this weekend, we ask ourselves, what have we done well for SolarShare pilot? What can we do better if we were to commercialize this product? What do customers in Singapore need? And what can SolarShare do for them? How can we empower individuals to take charge of their green choices? We are still in the planning stage on how we can bring SolarShare to more people. But for now, we are pleased with what we have achieved with SolarShare for the past 1 year. SolarShare is like Senoko's little baby that we envision that the growth of SolarShare can be help to power Singapore to be greener in the few areas below. Help companies and individuals in Singapore to adopt green without having to commit to lengthy contract or to make available rooftop space through active engagement on green options. Advocate the planting of new renewable assets through the provision of a ready buyer base. To encourage more landed homeowners to be more productive in solar installation. From the last statistics we have, there are roughly about 60,000 landed homes in Singapore, but only less than 2,000 actually have solar PVs installed on their rooftop. So we see that as a huge potential space that we can tap onto. Before I conclude my presentation, my last question to the audience will be, How else can we improve SolarShare so as to accelerate the adoption of renewables in Singapore or even globally? We at Senoko does not have all the answers, but collectively, I believe we can inch closer to our green future together. With this, I will end my presentation, and I welcome anyone who is keen in taking charge of our progression into the green future to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Hi. All right. Morning.
It was a morning. It was a very insightful presentation.
Thank you.
It was a very clear the journey you guys started off last year, the objective, and how ready the consumers are for the next steps. And I must say, Senoko has been trailblazing in being the first to introduce this kind of peer-to-peer trading platform. So congratulations on that milestone. It's good to see that you have incorporated the solar technology, because that is the dominant technology we see in Singapore with the recent announcements of large-scale solar projects, and with the LCOE, which has kind of matured over the last 9-10 years by 80%. It is the prevailing technology that we can rely on for Singapore context. I do see a lot of talks about the risk and the security part of this platform, and many pundits would say blockchain is the way to go because of safer, secure mode of technology. It increases efficiency. So perhaps maybe what's your take on this technology, and how safe is this platform going to be when it eventually comes to market?
Okay, so I think that's a very good question. And in fact, that was one of the key considerations that we have, right, in terms of the adoption of blockchain in this whole pilot test.
Yep.
Right, but however, after much evaluation, I guess the whole advantage of having a blockchain is really to eliminate a middleman, right, to do mass processing of the data. And even without emulating that, you have reliable data that people can trust upon. Right, so if we associate that back to the current market structure, just be mindful that we are trading this whole thing on main grid, and we actually, one of the key concerns here is the metering data, right? And in our case, we have a very robust metering system in place, in which, in this case, we actually make use of the data provided by MSSL, right, as the fundamental data that we transacted across the prosumers and the consumers. Right, so even we talk about the ample tech meters that we add on additionally, that is more for visualization. Right, so where I'm coming from here is that after evaluation, we realized that the market structure is already in place to support such a trading process, and there was no need for us to add on a blockchain layer to make things a bit more complicated and potentially more expensive for us. And thus, we opt out of the blockchain.
Great. Thanks for the clarity, and I'm sure all the consumers would appreciate that insight. One of the other things I wanted to get your take is because in the next few sessions we're going to talk about the EV integration onto the grid, the role of ESS that plays in the future of the electrification for Singapore market. How is your platform ready to kind of incorporate this technology, and how do we see that in your roadmap? Could you share a little bit on that one?
Okay. Again, very good questions on this. So I think I might have been overselling the part about this being pretty much a solar platform, but that is really focusing on a local market where solar is the prevailing renewable energy for Singapore itself. But as a platform, as a technology, there's actually no stopping us to trade any other form of renewable energies through this platform. The whole concept will still actually works, for any other renewables. And in your case of ESS, that will be going to be an interesting one, right? Because as you know, that most renewables are not controllable, right? So they dispatch as and when they are generated, right? So that thus the need of the half-hour matching concept that drive the peer-to-peer trading itself. So I guess as a platform, ESS, we should be ready for it, but I think that there's need to be further look into it, given that ESS is something that you can control when you want to actually dispatch the energy. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, James. Just for your information, I have switched to Senoko last year, so
you.
I'm very happy with that switch. So as a new onboarding to this energy company, what would be your key message to the other consumers out there when they switch over to Senoko and eventually take on this platform in your roadmap? What would be your key message?
Okay. So I think, if we talk about the fundamental, just the sale of electricity, elect is a commodity, right? So I think what we are trying very hard in terms of a retail space is really to differentiate ourselves from our competitors, right? And I think with the drive now towards sustainability and renewables, I think this is really an area that we are very, very enthusiastic about. In fact, I think internally, just last month, right, we have actually started a new Take Charge campaign internally, right? That is really to drive the ownership of driving sustainability at the top management level, right? So with this, we want to propagate the whole mindset of being green, being sustainable, right down from the top management, right, throughout the whole organization itself. And I think going forward, you'll definitely see a lot from us, right, in driving up some of this, be it product, right, or initiatives in the area of sustainability and green.
Great. It's very heartwarming to see the push from organization all the way from top down and bottom up, because sustainability is only going to happen if everyone kind of believes in that whole main purpose. So it's great to see that. Maybe my last question for you, you are also handling a lot of data, and that is also becoming kind of the talk of the town. The data is king. Everything is around data. There's no data. How do you even manage that? How are you taking on this data, and how are you managing so much data on this platform?
So sorry, you're talking about P2P or you're talking in general?
In general, like you have to collect all the data to kind of integrate onto the platform. How do you make sure that the data you collect is clean enough to go onto the platform and then use it for your further kind of analysis?
Okay, so back to my point earlier on. So a lot of these data sets, that especially when it comes down to settlement with clients, right? We make use of market data.
Okay.
Right. So we make sure that these data are actually validated by an independent third party.
Okay.
Right, and to make sure that that's the right data that we need to settle.
Okay.
Against. Yeah.
Thank you, James, for this presentation, and thank you for showing us the roadmap, the benefits, and objectives you're trying to achieve with the P2P trading platform.
Okay,
Have a
thank
good
you.
day. Yep.
Thank you for having me.
Yep.
Thank you both, gentlemen.